What's up, folks? Sean the Average Angler. We are back at it today with another great video for you. It's almost February. February to me is an exciting time because really it's kind of when the fishing starts getting better, okay? We still have storms coming through, or at least hopefully we do, because we really need some more water. But typically February storms where I live tend to be a little bit on the warmer side. Not 60s, 70s, but mid 50s. Tends not to be quite as cold. Hopefully that water temperatures start coming up. They start to let a little water stay in our reservoirs, which means the levels will come up, which is always good for the fishing. It's also a really good time to start looking at some different baits. February is the month that I caught my biggest fish, a 12-pound, 8-ounce behemoth on actually on a topwater from the bank, I might add. So I love February. Needless to say, the fish need to start prepping for that spawn. Mind you, we're only month and a half, 2 months away from full-blown spawning mode. Weather dependent, right? Either way, they'll be wanting to spawn, so they're going to get ready. So I've got a plethora of baits here that we are going to start looking into in February. Some of them we've been using. Most of them, for me, are going to be kind of February forward. We're going to be throwing these, okay? One of those is it's really time to get out the glide bait. This is a Ratt Sneaky Pete. That color is Hitch, okay? I'm going to change out these hooks to these decoy quads. Those are the X21s. And the only other alteration I'm going to make is there will be a clip on the nose, okay? Just gives it a little freer action when it's gliding. Now, I'm going to fish this pretty much in a straight glide mode, okay? Slowly, I want to keep it moving, not putting a whole lot of action into it right now. The other bait that I'll use and fish the same way is this clutch darter. Now, this is really in a completely different price point at $200+, but this is a phenomenal bait. It, again, same thing, okay? I'm gonna change that out. I'm gonna change out the hooks and just put a clip on the front there. Same reason, okay? The nice thing about the darter is it's a lighter bait. You don't necessarily need any real specialty tackle for it. Along the lines of the swim bait, February is really a time when that A-rig for me comes into play. Maybe I fish it a little different than some people. I prefer bottom bouncing this time of year, okay? Even though those fish are getting ready, I still believe that the fish hang out near the bottom a vast majority of the time. Now that is a Picasso Junior with no blades, okay? Same as this. This one's got blades. There's a lot of options out there. Another one, the Hog Farmer. But one of my favorites is actually one of the least expensive. It's just the 3-wire Yum umbrella rig. Okay, and the reason why I like the 3-wire, again, I like to swim it along bottom. Okay, that 3-wire. Here in California, we can have 3 hooks, okay? The other 2 on that other rig are dummy baits. The 3 baits has worked just fine for me, and it can be swam along bottom without catching on a lot of stuff and hanging up. So, and if I do lose it, they're fairly inexpensive. So that's my reasoning behind the umbrella rig. The A-rig, not my favorite thing to throw, but hey, I'm out there to catch fish, so I'm gonna throw what I need to throw. All right, moving on. This won't come as any surprise. I'm gonna continue throwing the Money Badger, but we're gonna make some changes. and I'm going to tell you what that is. I'd love to show you, except that box is in the boat. I'm going to change the size down to, that's a 7.25. I'm going to go to a 6.75, and I'm going to throw it in, call it Spring Craw, Delta Craw, whatever it may be, a red and black bait. I'm going to fish that around rocky structure, okay? Rocky points, rock piles, rocky bluffs. Lately I've been fishing it parallel to bluffs and bumping rock as it comes down. You could also throw it right up on the bank, reel it out down the slope, and then it'll come back up to the boat. You can stop and pause if you're not hitting structure, okay? I've been hitting a lot of rock where I've been fishing, so I don't necessarily do that, although I still will throw a pause in from time to time, especially if I hit something real hard and I can tell it deflects hard. A lot of times I'll pause it for a second and then pick it back up, retrieve it. All right, that lucky craft that I had here was here for a reason. Same thing, spring, early spring, late winter, whatever you want to call it. I love to fish the LV 500 in that spring, I think they call that Spring Craw. Yeah, Spring Craw. I love to slow roll that around deeper flats. Deeper meaning, 8 to 12 feet, preferably somewhere that's close to deeper water, somewhere that comes up and then flattens out. That's a good place to fish that. The LV 500 is just something that you need to keep honest this time of year, because man, when they get on that bait, they will get on that bait, right? The good old jig really starts to come alive this time of year, okay? That's a Bass Union, you see the initials there, Bass Union finesse jig that has a little rage craw, but what I would tend to use most of the time is going to be a Yamamoto twin tail trailer, something to match the skirt of the jig. So that's a brown and purple, so I might use like a green pumpkin with gold or copper and purple flake. I actually think I have some right here. 301, I'm sorry, 301. That's the flapping hog. That is the other bait that I like to use for a trailer. The Bass Union Jig is a little smaller. This is kind of a lot of bait to put on the Bass Union Jig. It's going to take up some of that gap, so I would go to the Johnny C in this case. I'll link all this stuff in the description for you, just because Johnny C's got a little bit bigger hook, very similar jig. I got a sleeper coming for you here, but who can leave out, and we talked about it in my last video, that good old Jackhammer Chatterbait. And I love to throw the Yamamoto swimming Senko. That's the 5-inch. I just shorten it down to make it appropriate size, but I really like the wide, lazy wag of that Yamamoto swimming Senko. It's actually the first trailer I used on a chatterbait when they came out, and it's been one of my favorites for early in the year. The G-Ratt Thin Swim. Okay, whether I'm throwing it on a ball head or an underspin really depends. Typically this time of year, depending on where you're at. Lake to lake can be different, but a lot of times they want the subtleness of a ball head, for instance, right? No blade. Other times, if you're around grass, if you're around structure and cover, you could use the flashy swimmer. These work very well on a flashy swimmer, and then the underspin. You're gonna see we've got quite a bit of stuff here. We're almost done. But the reason for that is because you just never know what you're gonna run into. And in the right conditions, this is a sleeper bait that gets forgotten about a lot. The chatterbait coming out and all the other stuff. The spinnerbait isn't talked about a whole lot by a lot of people. Now, I've been talking about it quite a bit because slow rolling a spinnerbait with painted blades early in the year can be deadly. Flats, points, outside of spawning areas, those kinds of things. Typically, I'm going to throw the painted blades in low light situations, muddy water, and wind. Something about pre-spawn bass really like the painted blades. Okay, if I got calmer conditions, clearer water, then I'm gonna go with your traditional gold in front of silver. And for trailers on these, I'm just gonna use a simple white single tail grub. If you wanna stay natural, something like this, then maybe you go with the smoke or salt and pepper in the clearer water. Oh yes. And there is no disputing this one, okay? It's just one of those baits you have to have, and that is the Yamamoto Senko, okay? This is a 5-inch. If I can get away with a 6-inch, I'm gonna throw the 6. Really depends on where I'm at, but the 5-inch is an old standby that just flat out catches them, right? This color is a 925. I think it's one of the best colors they make. A lot of times it's the only color I carry. If I'm going in someone else's boat, I will just take the 925, okay? Very effective bait, whether you're fishing at wacky or Texas rigged. I like wacky in open water. I Texas rig it if I'm throwing into structure, cover, tules, wood, all that kind of stuff, right? Just fishing the condition. This is a good old jerk bait, okay? Really brand, all that kind of stuff. You see I've got Mega Bass, got the 6 cents, got the Berkley Stunna. They all are a little bit different, find, or whatever you have confidence in, really. But one thing I will say about the early time of the year, now there's a fine line between going with something sort of a natural bait fish color, which I would consider all of these, right? I don't have one right here, but something that we used to use a lot that's very, very effective once they get on that pre-spawn bite is a clown, okay? We used to throw the clown rogue up on flats and just whack the heck out of them. It's not talked about. I don't think people stop doing it. I'm not gonna stop doing it because it works really, really well. But there's other brands you can get in a clown color. Clown is very, very good in the pre-spawn, right up until when they get up on the beds. I like to throw those jerk baits again, kind of in the same areas as the LVs, flats near deep water, okay? Coming up out of deep water and you're on a deeper flat, we're talking 8 to 12 foot of water here. Fish love to get up in that area and feed, or sun, depending on conditions, and warm up. But it's generally a great place for them to feed, especially if it's a spawning type area. Those fish are gonna be hanging around. Sean the Average Angler, you got any questions, drop them down below. Let me know what you're doing. February's right around the corner, only a couple days. This weekend, when most of us can get out and go fish, will be February 1st. Me, I'll be fixing my boat. As many of you saw, I got to straighten some things up. Hopefully Sunday I can get out and go fish. We'll see. Sean the Average Angler, like, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.